Well, it's that time here in Spain where we're joined by Hanson, and a week is a long time in politics, they say. Brett, how are you doing?
I'm still feeling pretty hot, Howard, waiting for summer to end. Unfortunately, it's only just started.
Yes, you'll have to be patient on that one, I think.
I think I will.
Well, last week, Brett and I discussed Spanish succession tax, and Brett returns this week to move on to UK inheritance tax, focusing on the new long-term residence system. This apparently not only provides inheritance tax planning opportunities, but also some income tax benefits for those moving to the UK under the new FIG regime, which sounds intriguing. It sounds it's covering something up. We'll find out. So, Brett, can you confirm that domicile is no more, and how did this long-term residence system work?
Yes, certainly, Howard. Whilst someone's liability to many taxes normally depends upon their residence status for that specific year, UK inheritance tax has long been based on, let's say, a hazier concept called the domicile regime. And a British national's domicile would in effect follow them around the world for long periods of time, with many expatriates remaining subject to UK inheritance tax on their worldwide assets even when they have lived abroad for many years. At the same time, being a foreign national whilst living in the UK has offered tax benefits with regards to the non-dom regime, a system which at times proved to be controversial. But the unpopular domicile and deemed domicile regime came to an end on the 6th of April of this year, when the new long-term residence rules came into effect. I should say though, Howard, that whilst this concept of domicile for tax purposes has come to an end, it still remains relevant for other issues such as matrimonial law and succession. But the new system provides much more clarity and certainty about the inheritance tax position of a British national no longer living in the UK, and actually provides for some fantastic opportunities for cross-border estate planning. At the same time, for those moving to the UK, whether British expatriates returning home or foreign nationals, there are tax advantages for a number of years if they do not meet the long-term residence criteria. So, under the new rules, Howard, someone is a long-term UK resident if they meet either of the following two criteria. 1. You were a UK tax resident for the previous 10 consecutive years. Or 2. You were a UK tax resident for a total of 10 or more years over the previous 20 years. And if you are a long-term resident, then you will be liable to UK inheritance tax on your worldwide assets. This is regardless of nationality and where your assets are located. But once you no longer meet the UK long-term residence criteria, i.e. you have not been a UK tax resident for the last 10 consecutive years, then only assets situated in the UK will be liable for UK inheritance tax. So the less assets you retain in the UK, the less likely you're going to breach the UK inheritance tax nil rate bans. Though listeners should bear in mind that UK pension funds will also become subject to UK inheritance tax from April of next year, a move that will push many more families into the UK inheritance tax net.
How does this impact UK inheritance tax for British expatriates living in Spain?
Well, Howard, for any British expatriates who have been living in Spain for more than 10 years, and there will be many expatriates listening to this broadcast who will have already be in this position, then they will only pay UK inheritance tax on their assets which are in the UK. If they have no assets in the UK, or the assets they have there are below the nil rate band, then there will be no UK inheritance tax to pay. If they still have assets in the UK, which will incur inheritance tax, then they may wish to take those assets out of the UK to avoid this tax.
And what happens if British expatriates return to the UK? When do they become liable to UK inheritance tax again?
And this, Howard, is where the new rules are even better, in that if you return to the UK after 10 or more consecutive years abroad, you will not be classed as a long-term resident until you have been back 10 years in the UK. Over this period, your estate for UK inheritance tax purposes will only comprise of the assets located in the UK. As I said before, Howard, this new regime provides fantastic opportunities for effective estate planning for British expatriates living outside of the UK or are returning to the UK to live, having lived outside of the UK for 10 years. With strategic advanced planning, you could potentially make the UK an inheritance tax-free zone.
And what is this new FIG regime, which I understand can benefit returning expatriates?
That's a good question, Howard. FIG stands for Foreign Income and Gains, and this new system came into effect in April of this year. In effect, this tax benefit is available to individuals moving or returning to the UK after being non-UK residents for at least 10 years, whereby on returning to the UK for the first 4 years of UK tax residence, their foreign income and gains is potentially tax-free in the UK. This applies even if the income is paid into the UK, provided it is generated from assets in a foreign jurisdiction. This doesn't apply automatically, Howard. Any listeners wanting to take advantage of this will need to make a claim for the foreign income and gains regime. Once the 4 years are over, then going forward, UK tax will need to be paid on worldwide income and gains, unless they leave the UK again before the 5th year of tax residence commences. But as I say, for the first 4 years of living back in the UK, if they keep their assets outside of the UK, any income that they draw down on that will be tax-free in the UK. So Howard, these new UK long-term residence rules can certainly unlock some significant tax and estate planning advantages for British expatriates living outside of the UK, and likewise for those looking to go back to the UK to live. Of course, if any of our listeners, Howard, have any questions about the new UK rules or would like a personalised review of their tax and estate planning, they can contact their local Blevins Franks office.
And the list of all the offices is on the website, blevinsfranks.com.
That's right, Howard. And also there's podcasts and additional information such as tax guides, useful stuff.
A font of information. Thank you very much, Brett.
Absolutely.